Well, good afternoon and welcome to Overdevest Nurseries on a breezy and rather chilly day in early spring. As you see, we've moved into one of the greenhouses here, and in this particular house, this is where we grow quite a few of our edible crops. Ones that are likely to be turning up at garden centres during the next few weeks and months. Lots of really nice plants that I hope you'll get a chance to grow in your home. Now, we have lots of things, of course, that are good to eat, but also I want to show you some plants that not only taste really good, but also are pretty to look at. Because in today's world where space is tight, and particularly if you're thinking about growing some of these things in containers and pots, it's pretty important that they also look good as well as taste good. And what's interesting for me is that when I overview and take a look at all of these things, I'm reminded of the famous garden in the Loire Valley in France. That's the Chateau Villandry, where Joachim Carvalho and his American wife Caroline Coleman set out to develop what Hugh Johnston described as the ultimate kitchen garden. And what's interesting there is in parts of the garden, they grow vegetables and herbs, but particularly vegetables, as ornamental plants. And as you see here, you can take plants that have different colored foliage, different textures, all sorts of ways that they can be planted together to not only give you useful produce to eat, but also ones that are pretty to look at. And you could do this too in containers on your deck and patio, or even on a window box. Anywhere where you're able to grow plants, you can have them look pretty as well as taste really nice. And here in front of me is a very interesting plant. This is a compact growing version of the humble kale. This is a variety known as Prizm. This was an All-American selection winner, and what's interesting about it, as you see, is that as well as tasting good, it has this really pretty kind of crinkly, curly foliage. It makes a plant that grows short and compact. You can go in as a young plant and harvest the leaves off the sides of the stems. It will keep on growing, and as it grows you can cut and come again. In other words, you can keep harvesting it all the way through the growing season. And because kale is really remarkably tolerant of cold conditions, this is a plant that you can actually harvest all the way through to the colder months of the fall and even into winter time too. It's an F1 hybrid. That means that it's got hybrid vigor, so it's bushy and compact and yet strong growing and really easy to grow. All you want is a good sized container filled with a nice fertile mix of a compost, and you can buy that at your local garden center, and then take one of these pots. And this is the interesting part. As you see, we grow them here in these biodegradable pots. These are pots that are actually made of bamboo and rice hulls. And as you see, if I zoom in close here, you'll see that the roots are just beginning to peek out of the slit in the side. When you take this plant, you can put it right into the compost, pot and all. The roots will grow out, the pot will biodegrade, and that means that you don't have to worry about recycling the plastic, but also, of course, the plant gets off to a terrific start, so you'll get to harvest it even earlier. Now, the brassica crops, of which this is kale, of course, is something that really likes it cool and moist. They love to be growing in a sunny location. So just make sure when you're growing it in your pots and containers that you keep it well watered. Not wet and soggy, but really well watered. And then you'll get lots of these nice big lush bluish green leaves that you can harvest and then enjoy eating. So now you've got a plant that you can really enjoy in two ways. Enjoy looking at it, but also enjoy eating it. This is kale, and the variety is called Prizm.